StockPhotoGuru.com featuring Steve Harmon.
Hi guys, this is Steve Harmon again here with StockPhotoGuru.com, and we are still continuing on. This is our third video now, explaining how you can start from being a novice in photography and stock photography all the way to managing a professional portfolio. So on video 3 here, I want to talk about model releases and property releases, which are very important. And that's why we haven't talked right now about shooting or even signing up for stock photo accounts, is because you need to have your photographs in place first before you can submit to any agencies. So one really important thing, of course, is the model release. If you shoot a picture of a person or many people, it can even be yourself. Whatever the case is, if it's any people, you have to have a model release signed. Now, most stock agencies will accept a model release from other stock agencies. We noticed that Dreamstime did not accept our iStock model release when my wife was submitting an image. So pay attention to that. We don't know all the different angles on that, but if you know you're going to submit to multiple houses, you might want to find out exactly who's going to accept which model releases or not, and maybe we'll find that out for you and post that in the future. But you have to have a model release. What I try to do is in my photo bag, I have a bunch printed off so that whenever I'm out and about or whatever I'm doing, I'm always got a photo. I've got a model release. Property releases are a little less cut and dry, where model releases, you have to have one if it shows a face or if it shows any recognizable portion of a person's body. Property releases, you have to have one if it's like Madison Square Garden or the Space Needle, perhaps, depending on how you're using that. If you're using the skyline of Seattle and it doesn't say it on it, you'll be fine. But if that's the only, sometimes registered buildings that are not owned by the city or are not municipal owned buildings, you have to get it for that. Also, a piece of art is considered a piece of property, or something that somebody handcrafted, that might be something that's property. I've got a friend who made a guitar for me, and I had him sign a model release because it's kind of a piece of art. It's a one-off kind of guitar. So you got to think about things like that when you're shooting real estate or any kind of property. It doesn't have to be real property. It can also be art of any kind of sort, or any kind of one-off kind of a thing. You gotta have that. If you've got old photo collections, even if you're past the cutoff for something being in a public domain, if somebody else owns the rights to those images, you still have to get a property release for that if the person is dead, or they can't sign it or something like that. So however, if you're out there and you're going to go shoot like a home and it's not really very special, or if it doesn't have a trademark or a sign in the window, something like that, you probably can get away without a property release. So it's a little less defined as model releases are, but it's something you need to get. So I wanted to make sure that you have property releases and model releases on you at all times when you're shooting, so that if you get into a situation, hey, you've already got that there. And if you have your friend shoot, you have your kid. You have to sign pretty much with all the stock agencies, except for yourself. You can sign one model release you can use for multiple images for yourself. My model release for myself is a few years old, and I can keep submitting that. However, if I even shoot my own child, my wife, or friends, whatever, they might get sick of keep shooting a model release every day. Well, it could also be like a shoot over a 2 or 3 day period. You could say the date range on that model release, but you're going to have for each different type of shoot, you're going to have a separate model release. So it gets a little tedious sometimes. You have to have it. It's just the way it works in stock. So remember to always have that. If you are shooting a close-up image of a person holding, let's just say, a bouquet of flowers. I've got a lot of images of those for my wedding photography. You don't necessarily have to have a property release, or excuse me, model release, but sometimes I found this, like iStock for me will say sometimes they want to have a model release, sometimes they don't. It's better to get one if you can, but sometimes you'll find that you can crop in whatever to try to remove that necessity. But if it's recognizable, someone's face or whatever, you got to have a model release for each one of those people. So one way of dealing with those model releases too, if you've got a lot of model releases for a lot of people, you can in Photoshop just kind of make one big JPEG of all those model releases kind of stacked up. Or with like Deep Meta and iStock, which is really cool, you can actually have all your model releases uploaded into there, and then you can select by clicking on the ones you want to use for that particular photograph. And so that's a little easier, but you're still going to have to put those all together. The more people, if you could do a photo of 20 people, you got to have 20 model releases. So something to think about now before we actually start uploading and start putting our images into the stock agencies, because we want to have all of our ducks in a row. Something you're going to have to do. So think about it right now. And right now, I'd go to iStock, download their model release and their property release, and keep a bunch of them on you. So anyway, that's tip number 3, and that's leading us up to the next video that we're going to do in our series number 4. So pay attention, and I'm going to have a link down below for some model releases. So make sure you check that out, and also make sure you like us on Facebook and you leave a comment if you have any questions. I'd like to get back to you guys. Thanks so much.